Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and welcome to another one of my Dota 2 hero guides. Today we're going to be taking a look at Phoenix. So Phoenix is a support hero that can sometimes maybe play mid or even off lane, but we're mainly going to be focusing on 5 position because even if it does play core, it's trying to do the same things that it does from the 5 position. It's just that it has a few more items to amp up the AoE magic damage and things like that. But hopefully you can get the same impact from 5, and that's going to be the ideal game from Phoenix, so that's what we're going to focus on here. So Phoenix is really about 2 things. The first is damage over time, percentage-based heal and damage, so very good against tanky heroes. And the other thing is a huge team fight ultimate that can just win you the game if you're able to get enough levels to get to level 3 ultimate. Level 3 Phoenix ultimate might be the best ultimate in the game, and if you are able to press it correctly and know when to get it off, you may just solo carry the game even from the 5 position. But Phoenix is a super interesting hero because the strength of Phoenix, which is that ultimate like I talked about that can basically win you the game, is also kind of its weakness because it's all or nothing in this way. You either get the ultimate off and have insane impact, or you get your ultimate off and then you just die and you don't have much impact at all. And that's a fine line and a hard line to walk, and we'll take a look at how that works when we get into the abilities and when we get into the game. But that's really the long and short of Phoenix. Some games you can literally solo carry, and then some games you can really feel like you don't do anything at all because it's not a traditional support. But before we can understand how to play Phoenix, we have to take a look at his abilities. So now that we understand Phoenix in general, we can take a look at his abilities and see how he's able to be that great team fight percentage-based damage over time hero like I talked about. So before we look at any specific ability, I just wanted to show you that there are blue numbers down here, which are the mana costs, and that's typical for most heroes. But then there are also these red numbers because this hero has a pretty unique mechanic where you spend health to cast some of the abilities. And actually Icarus Dive, the first ability we're going to look at, actually only costs health. And so when you cast it here, and I'll show you, it's kind of an ability that you can just dive in a direction, so there's some mobility there, and you burn everything along your path and you return right to where you were. And you can see that it costs me some health to cast this ability, so I'll put free spells on so I can just keep casting it. But you can see that it does take some health, and so it's a very unique mechanic. But the other thing you can do is you can actually press the ability again in the middle of your dive to cancel it wherever you want, so that you can actually have some kind of mobility and you're not just going right back to where you were. But if you do get silenced in the middle of it, you can't cast it again, so then you'll just go right back there, and then, you know, if the enemy's chasing you or something, they can just kill you because now you went right back to where you were. You just kind of wasted some time, but keep that in mind. So you can get aggressive, you can just use it to harass the enemy, or you can use it for some mobility purposes as well. Then next we have Fire Spirits, and this is an ability that costs mana and health. So when we press it, we see that I have reduced health and mana, and then these Fire Spirits are rotating around me. I have 4 of them here, and then I can just shoot them out in a certain direction and aim them, and they hit the ground, and then anything in that AoE is now taking burn damage, and they have attack slow. So actually, let's show you here. The attacks can attack me, and this is his attack speed, but then when I press Fire Spirits and I hit him with the Spirit, now his attack speed is super slow when I have the maxed out Fire Spirit. So this can be very good in the lane in general to trade with the enemy or to prevent them from last hitting, which is really how you're going to be using this ability. But then it also synergizes with your ultimate, which I'll show you in a second here. Then lastly, for normal abilities, we have Sunray, and this is a pretty straightforward ability in terms of casting it. You just pick a direction, and then you will shoot out a Sunray for a certain duration. It's a channeled spell. It does cost some HP when you are using it, not just when you cast it. The initial cast costs some mana, and then you are doing damage to enemies. It's a percentage-based damage, which is really good scaling into the late game, but you also heal allies that are hit by Sunray as well. So if you use this in a fight and the enemy and your ally are dueling, you're healing them and doing damage. So it's really good in team fights as well. But you are kind of vulnerable, and you don't necessarily have to aim it either, because you can click to the sides and you can kind of aim it, but it is a little bit slow. So you have to have it at generally the right spot at the right time as well. The other thing you can do is when you cast it, you can press D, and you can go forward or backwards if the enemy is, let's say, running away or something like that. It's not like you're completely stationary, so you can kind of follow them, but you still are channeling, so if you get stunned or silenced or something like that, it is going to cancel that spell. Then lastly, we have Phoenix's big team fight ultimate, Supernova. So basically, you can just press this ability, and then you become an egg, and you burn everything in an AoE, and then after a short delay, the enemy gets stunned, takes damage, and you refresh all of your cooldowns, your health, and your mana. So you can bait the enemy in to going on you, trying to think they're going to kill you. Then you press egg, and now they either have to run away or they have to focus down the egg. So basically you can press it, let's say, near this axe. He can try to kill it, but if he doesn't have the attack speed necessary and he's missing some of his attacks, he might not be able to kill your egg in time. But that's why this hero can be really countered by attack speed or BKB. If they're able to just turn and hit your egg, then you can actually die. So I'll actually show you how that works. We'll give this guy a moon shard, and then we'll show you that you can die pretty easily at the earlier levels of the ultimate, especially if they have a bunch of attack speed and can just keep hitting this before it goes off, and they get that last hit and then you die. So that's why this hero can kind of be all or nothing, because if you get this ultimate off, if you bait people in, if you get all of your spells off, that can have a great effect, an amazing effect on the team fight. But sometimes you can press your ultimate and then you just die because they just turn on you, and that cannot be the best scenario. Obviously, you don't really want that to be happening to you. But that's why we can also synergize this ultimate with Fire Spirits, because if you press this on the enemy and then you use your ultimate, now their attack speed is a lot slower, and they may miss attacks and they may not actually kill you. So you can see how fast that axe is attacking there with the moon shard even, but the Fire Spirit slowed him enough that he actually wasn't even able to kill me through that ultimate even at level 2. So you can see how this synergizes then together with all of these abilities. So you can like cast all of your abilities, get the Fire Spirits off on a bunch of people, dive into the team fight, press your ultimate, and then they're going to have a really hard time killing your ultimate unless they have BKBs or mantas or something like that. Then lastly, we have the Ags and the Shards. So for the Ags, it's a great addition to this hero because it requires more attacks for the egg now to die when you have Ag. So if you can get there, that's going to be amazing for the hero. But then you can also save an ally. So when you press this, you can press it on an ally, or you can right-click them, bring them into the egg, so you save them, they can't be targeted. And then as long as you don't die, now their health, mana, and cooldowns are also refreshed, just like yours are. So that's fantastic. But if you die in the egg with them, they also die. So it is kind of a risk reward, but it can be very effective and very good if you're able to get to that point. Then the Shard also is a great addition for this hero because you can press your egg and now you can actually Sunray while you're egging too. So now you can do extra burn damage in addition to all the damage you're doing with your egg and the stun and everything. Now it makes it even worse for the enemy to try to fight into you because now they have to focus on hitting the egg, and they also are taking a ton of percentage-based damage while that's happening. Then for the facets and the passive, we have this Blinding Sun passive, which basically every time you cast abilities on the enemy, they get a stacking debuff that causes them to miss attacks, which is fantastic, especially because you don't want the enemy attacking your egg. Also, because you use health as a way to cast all of these abilities, it can make it so you're a little bit tankier in that way as well. It can also help if you're jungling or other things like that to not tank as much damage in general. Then for facets, we have Dying Light, and this is a mini radiance around your hero that does damage, percentage-based damage, based on the HP that you're missing. And so because a lot of these abilities take HP, you're going to be doing a ton of damage with this facet, but it is a little bit more of a core facet. It's good for farming. It's good when people try to fight into you. So it generally is just an overall damage facet, and it's better if you have more items that are a little bit tankier. And then the other facet, Hotspot, is more of a support facet, just upgrading your Sunray to deal more damage and apply more of those Blinding Sun passive stacks so the enemy misses more when you're casting Sunray. That's good if you have the Shard in your egg, but also just in general when you're casting Sunray in team fights and things like that. So that's Phoenix. Those are his abilities. Now let's jump into a game and see how he's played. Phoenix's laning stage is really all about Fire Spirits. There might be very rare circumstances where you're going to take the Icarus dive. That's probably only if you put yourself in a bad position and you kind of want to get out of trouble during a rune fight or something. Otherwise, you want those Fire Spirits early because that's going to be great for trading, for harassing, for stopping the enemy carry or the enemy offlane from last hitting. It's just the best tool that you have in the laning stage for trading, harassing, and doing everything you want. Then as you get more levels, yes, you're going to have Sunray, yes, you're going to have Icarus dive, but it's usually going to be a combination of these with maxing out your Fire Spirits that is really going to help you do a lot of damage and be annoying to the enemy. Then obviously our first big timing is going to be level 6, so we want to get that as soon as possible, but just beware, your ultimate is not that great level 1. Now, when you combine it with Fire Spirits that attack slow and the miss chance from your passive, it can be very good, but you need to make sure that you're getting off those Fire Spirits on the enemy and they don't have a lot of ways to dispel that. So you're not against a Lifestealer, a Jug, a Slark, some hero that has a lot of attack speed, because they can just burst down through your ultimate even if you cast it, especially level 1. But if you don't have bad matchups like that, your ultimate combined with Fire Spirits can be absolutely insane early game and can even win early game team fights or defenses of towers and those kinds of things. Then transitioning into the mid game, we have two different ways to think about the hero. The first is when you have your ultimate, you're going to be fighting to push towers, defend towers, ganking, whatever it is, you want to look to use your ultimate, or even the threat of your ultimate can be very, very good. But then when you don't have your ultimate, you want to try to focus on farming, pushing waves, farming jungle camps as much as possible. It's not even necessarily for the gold, because yes, this hero does want to get ags, you do want to get shard, those things are great, but really you don't even need the gold. Like, those are just luxury things for defensive items and that kind of stuff. Really what you want is you want the levels, because if you can get to your level 3 ultimate, you are going to have so much more impact. It's going to be so hard for the enemy to kill your egg, and that's really what we're aiming for. So when we have ultimate, participate. When we don't, really focus on farming and soaking some extra XP and getting that space on the map so you can have impact later on in the game. So then in team fights, how do we actually use Phoenix's abilities? Well, the first thing early on in the game is a lot of times you want to use your ultimate by baiting the enemy in to try to do damage and jump in on you and kind of get them out of position, and then popping your ultimate after they already committed a bunch of spells and after they're already out of position. That can be risky sometimes, but even in those situations where you die, as long as your teammates are there to back you up, that can be great, even if you do end up dying when you pop your ultimate. Then as we transition to the later portion of the game, you really have to think about lineups, think about matchups. Do they have hard counters to your egg? Do they have something like a Lena? Do they have a Slark? Do they have an Ursa? Do they have a Lifestealer? Anything that can purge your slows, anything that can hit you very quickly. Do they have a Snapfire? That's another great one. You have to be very careful. If they have these kinds of heroes on the enemy team, you probably don't want to just jump in and use your ultimate immediately. But then other games where there are a lot of magic damage, they don't really have fast right clickers, they can't really turn and hit you, that's when you want to be really aggressive and just force the enemy team to retreat after they've already committed. So it is very matchup dependent, but either way, you always want to make sure that your allies are there to back you up or to capitalize on the position that you're taking when you do pop your egg. And that's the thing with Phoenix. You don't really want to be using your spells as initiation tools. You're usually follow-up or counter-initiation tools with your egg and with your spells in general. The enemy is going to commit on one of your teammates, and then you're going to Sunray, then you're going to dive an egg. You're going to do all these things after the fight has already started. Or maybe your heroes jump in, they start stunning the enemy, and then you follow up with an egg after a dive and using all of your abilities. And then the enemy has to say, okay, are we going to commit on the egg, or are we going to turn and fight the other enemies, or are we just going to run? And that's really what you want to be thinking of. You want to force the enemy to make hard decisions, and if they run, they're just giving up the team fight because now you can kill an enemy or two that are out of position. But obviously the ideal fight is you get to counter initiate, or you get to jump in and follow up with your team. You dive in with your Icarus dive, you kind of stop it halfway through, you cast all of your Fire Spirits so everybody is damaged and slowed. You cast your ultimate, and then you cast your Sunray with your shard, and you damage everybody in this AoE, and it's this huge team fight ultimate that they really can't deal with. Maybe they turn to try to kill you, they try to ignore you, they can't get away, and then that really just ruins the fight for the enemy, and they don't kill you. You refresh all your spells, and you cast them once again. That's really the ideal for Phoenix. And that, everyone, is my Phoenix guide. If you liked the video or found it helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.